have written this kind of laws for quite a long time. It was a context for me that that was the issue. We were seated there, and we are talking about a law that is benchmarked with a developed country, a country that is able to provide water to the entire population that it has. In fact, in many of these European countries, your tap water, you don't pay metered. They assume that you're going to use water, reasonably. So some of these countries just put the water for you, and they have a flat rate for the water that you consume in your house, because it's assumed it is a right to everybody, and it should be available to all of you. And it's also assumed that you'll be reasonable enough to use that water, in a good way. So I was saying, we are coming from a different aspect of society. We are starting off from a place of scarcity. We are starting off from a place of deficiency. And our situation, therefore, is different from Copenhagen. Copenhagen, they have a very developed infrastructure. They have a very developed society. They have different values from ours. We are discussing, Copenhagen is a city, and we are discussing laws also that affect a farmer. That's the case of Turkana, for example. By the way, the reason why I was mentioning Turkana in this case is I have had a situation, and I'm sure many other drillers have been in this situation, where you've been paid by a donor to go and drill a borehole, and it turns out dry. That person has been waiting for the water. They don't care who footed the bill for you to come there. They will tell you, there's so much land here in Turkana, you can move wherever you want, but you are only going to leave this place when we have the resource. So I had to go back to a donor and said, listen, these guys are not smiling with me because I didn't get water. And you damned. They say, no, you live here when you provide us water. You have to, at that time, the issue of payment does not arise with the man on the ground. So you have to call your donor and say, my rig is now umetegwa nyara. So lucky for me, I had a donor who actually paid for us to drill another borehole. We were successful. We left when we had provided water. So my biggest problem with these issues is that we need to pay attention to ourselves and what works for us. What is it? Why is it that we set a lot of these laws based on other people when we can develop these things? Otherwise, what's the point of education? Why do we go to school? Why do we invest time and years of trying to join professions? Yeah, you have engineers. Even among us, we have engineers. We have people like myself trained in business management. We have. Drilling is not. It's an investment. We're not like lawyers who then have to have studied law. We are, in fact, among ourselves, we have lawyers who own rigs. So if you came to an association like ours, because we have an umbrella body called the Rig Owners Association, you would actually find a lot of these people who can help you redraft these laws in a manner that is beneficial to society. Of course, I have to mention, after this dinner, we have had several other forums with Warma. We're actually working together right now. We've made quite some progress in trying to even ease. Even though it is in letter, we're trying to say, okay, look, for example, you're saying the permit has to come out in within 60 days. Why does it have to take 60 days? Yes, it is in the law. But what is it that is making you wait for 60 days? Can we look?
Can we do it sooner?
Yes, can we do it sooner? Yeah, and there are things like I'll say this. Two days ago, I was actually with the same CEO. We had a meeting, and last week we also, as an association, we had been to his office. I had gone there to complain about my own issue. And in the process, we actually had a very nice, decent meeting with the CEO and his chair. And I was saying, look, there's an easier way to do this. And I was able to, to put that point across. And the CEO said, yes, actually it is possible in that case to give you this authorization to drill within a short time. He has promised me 10 days. I am waiting to see the 10 days.
So there's a conversation. Yesterday we had a conversation with Bill Okero, and what he was talking about is sometimes coming up with this, some of these laws or ways of even raising taxes. In that example, is it almost feels like government is detached from business people or business owners, where if they're coming up with things that will affect business, they sit down somewhere, draft things, and then they come tell you, no, this is how we're going to work. Do you feel as a business person in this context that running a business in this country almost feels like you're so detached, no one cares? It's almost like it's a punishment to have a business where somebody sits somewhere, comes up with regulations, because in the clip you are saying tuache kudanganyana, end this nonsense. Are you feeling as a business person in this country that we're at that point where your voices are not heard, yet there's an expectation to pay taxes, to do all these things and follow through the regulation?
To be quite honest, in fact, that clip I start by saying government has become a business mortician.
Yes.
It is banning businesses. And I wanted this to be heard because every time you set a law that affects a business, you have to ask yourself, what will happen to revenue? See, you must set a law. If I'm seated in government, I have to ask myself, what is the implication of this law to revenue and to goals that you want to achieve? You see, government has two major things when they set laws. Number one is, do you have a policy that you want to achieve? For example, in our situation, by setting this law, do you set it in a manner that it makes it easier for people to access water? Are you making the law to ensure that access to water is improved?
Right.
Or are you making the law to increase revenue? Because government has to balance between those two things. It has to raise revenue so that it can give you service. But also, it must meet the expectations of its citizens. We vote in governments based on manifestos.
Sure.
Manifestos that tell us what they will do for us. So yes, I feel that sometimes government is forgetting that if you do not protect the businessman, you will wind up with a situation where you do not have enough taxes to provide the very service for which we elected you.
Cornelius, we talk about public participation and how critical it is. There is a feeling that public participation is just another card that is there because it's in the Constitution. We'll do it anyway, not necessarily because we want to see proper services. But I want to flip the question and ask, if proper public participation happened, like say you had a meeting with rig owners like yourself with regard to this policy, we need to change like this in order to provide this service like this, and let's extrapolate it and just look at it as a government that listens to the people and hears what it is they say. What kind of relationship would you see between the people and the government that serves them?
You know, if the voices of the citizens, and in this case Kenyans, was heard, you know, any regime that comes to power, whether it's this one or the one that's coming, would actually have a very easy time. Because like I said, we don't exist to serve government. We want a government that serves us. In fact, the only reason we have government is because you have a different mind from mine. And there's a point at which your mind is going to differ from mine. What you want and what I want will differ. For example, like I just told you, in this issue of the water, there's a conflict between what is fair for this generation and what is fair for the next generation. How much of what we have now do we abstract? Because, you know, water is also a finite resource. And if, for example, you drill a borehole 200 meters from me, you have already put in your money. And I drill a borehole 200 meters from you, you know what's going to happen is we're going to share the same resource.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah? I could be doing agriculture. I may be planting vegetables, and you're only using it, you know, for your household purposes. Now, I'll be abstracting more water than you are. Now, if we differ, because if your bowl goes dry, I'd be arguing, I need this water because I have to irrigate my vegetables. But you need the water because you're using it to cook and to, you know, do other things within your house. That's where government comes in to protect the resource. And that's the purpose of ensuring that public participation happens, so that you listen to both sides of the coin and then go ahead to create a law that then works for these people. Now, if governments were to take these things seriously, believe me, we'd have a very beautiful society. Because then the laws that are in place were created by us. Remember, when you go to public participation, what do? You actually sign in a book In fact, more public participations now that are real and genuine, they take a picture of you. They make sure that you don't come back to say I was not present or I was not represented. So the thing is, we must stop making public participation, just one of those things that you're ticking boxes. And it goes back to what I said originally. It is a mindset thing. It is, what do we want to achieve as a country? What is the purpose of, setting these laws? What does it achieve? What will this law do to us? We must take stock of what the law has done for us, so that we're not just feeling. In fact, I have this view that we have so many laws in this country that we have forgotten the earlier ones. In fact, we have one law based on another one, and you don't even know what the one that you base this law on is saying. If you walk in the streets of Nairobi today, even myself, if you ask me, I don't have enough. I don't know much of my own constitution. In fact, I was when I was there yesterday, I was saying, we need to create popular versions of all these laws. You must have seen people go to court to argue and to talk about conflicting laws. You have said this in this law, and you have said this is in the other law. Because we have a tendency to just pass laws. Pass this law, pass that law, pass this law, pass that law.
Yes, I'm curious, because 80% of this country, like you say, doesn't clearly have access to water, can't get water. For someone who wants to drill a borehole, let's talk numbers, and let's talk about the clearance that you will need for you to come dig a borehole and the end consumer. What processes do you go through, permits, licenses, and what does it cost you, and what does it then cost me who wants to have access to the water? Break it down for us.
That's very good, actually. So it is good that you asked that question, because after this meeting that we had, we have been grappling with these issues as drillers. We're actually being run out of business. In fact, let me just be clear, we're not even being run out of business by WRA. In fact, even WRA itself is worried that an industry is dying. And it's dying on account of people that wake up one morning and decide we must raise revenue here. And I'm speaking about counties. So let me first break down for you what it takes to drill a borehole of your own. Forget commercial boreholes. You will have to do something called an hydrogeological survey. And it's important for you, and it's also important for government. That hydrogeological survey will cost you anything between, for a good geologist, anything between 40 and 50,000. Some go as high as 80, but take an average of 50,000 for the hydrogeological survey. You finish that. Then you come to the permitting part, which is called authorization to drill. You start with the first permit, which is an authority to drill. It's given to you by Water Resource Authority, which manages this resource. That will cost you 25,000. Okay? That's around 25,000 to do that. Once you receive the authorization, and this is where we were having problems with drillers, and we're making progress with WRA on that matter. The delay on the issue of time, because it used to take us up to 3 months to get this document, but in law they say 60 days. So once you get this document, now we go to the next aspect. There's something called environmental impact assessment. It will cost you something like 40,000 or 50,000 for the person who writes for you the report. Then you file that report with government.
Oh, the report is paid for, essentially.
Of course, you pay.
And this is based on findings on the ground.
Yes, so this expert goes to the ground, to ask the neighbors whether they are okay with the borehole. And then, of course, they also check what the impact it will have on the environment and stuff like that. That person will charge you 40,000. Then you pay government fee, 10,000 shillings. Right, I'm sure you realize we are past the 100,000 mark already.
Yeah, we're at 115,000.
Then hell breaks loose from there. Hell breaks loose because you still have to get a letter of no objection from the water company. So in the case of Nairobi, you have to get a letter of no objection from Nairobi Water. Because
this is in every county.
Yes, they are saying this is our jurisdiction. You see, there's another regulator called WASREP, which regulates the service provision end of things. So Nairobi Water falls within the armpits of WASREP. They have been allocated an area in which to operate within the Nairobi area, right? Those borders sometimes do not follow the political boundaries, by the way. You need to know. Because there's something you need to understand. The way this water resource is managed, it is based on the flow of water, mostly indicated by the flow of rivers. So sometimes they would overlap within counties. Now you get that letter of no objection from these water companies. And if we're being honest, we're living in Kenya. That letter can take you months. So most people have to find someone who knows somebody inside to help you
for the letter to come out.
Yes, for the letter to come out.
Sorry, I just want to clarify
it's
something.
free, yes, but
I want to clarify something. This 115,000 that we've paid so far, because we did the 40,000, then you do another 25, another 40, another 10,000. We're at 115,000, and your rig has not touched ground.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't moved. It's still in my yard.
Okay.
Yeah, or somewhere in another site waiting for this one.
Now we're waiting for a letter.
Yes, we're
this
waiting
letter
for
is coming from where?
From the water company, like
Water
Nairobi
company.
Water,
Okay.
Eldoret Water, and others.
This is at the county level.
Yes, at the county level.
Okay.
Then the counties now have gone wild. They have raised their own. They raise their own invoices. Now, I have to be very honest on this table. You go to a county which is water deficient, like Taita Taveta, they want 200,000
For what?
for you to drill the borehole in their county.
Just to say come and do.
No, he's not inviting me. I'm being invited by an individual.
Yeah.
But for me to go and drill the borehole on that individual's farm, I pay 200,000.
That's a fee under what?
So counties will name it whatever they want. Some call it drilling permits. They don't even have a name. You know, they've put these laws in their finance acts as ways of raising funds. Because remember, by law, it is Water Resource Authority that is mandated to protect this resource. They have no role. They have no role, absolutely no role. This, I speak for WRA. Even them, they are struggling. They have issued notices to counties telling them it is not within your armpit to charge fees on this aspect of water. In fact, when you read the Water Act, it states clearly that this resource, the Water Act itself,
It's a national
is
resource.
very clear that it is a national resource. And the reason is obvious. This water is not static. It doesn't, there's no water that is static in Nairobi County, for example.
It's our water.
Yes.
Yes, and it's moving.
Yeah.
From whether it's on the surface or it's underground, water is always moving. So, for example, if you look at the way they have demarcated the Nairobi region office, this, I think they call it the earthy suit. It will cut across Nairobi County, Kiambu, Kajiado, Machakos. Because that water underneath is in constant motion.
But the county will still ask for this
Now, the
200,000.
county will still ask me to pay them for that resource that is not theirs.
Is this 200,000 like standard across all counties?
That is the next problem. It is not standard. So in Taita Taveta it's 200,000. In Kajiado it's 50,000. It's 20,000 for the customer, 30,000 for the driller, and these laws keep changing. 2 years ago, it was 30,000 per annum for the driller and 20,000 per borehole for the client. Now it's 30,000 for the driller per borehole and 20,000 for
Every customer.
every customer.
So let's stick with this 200,000 on top of the other figures.
Yes, before you go, and then I'll let you. This is how even it gets more ridiculous. In Machakos and Turkana County, very dry counties, you pay to enter their county.
Sorry?
For your rig.
Your rig, and that, what do you call those?
That boundary, the Kanjo boundary,
The Kanjo, the
So the
cesspit,
spaces.
the spaces.
Okay.
For your rig to enter. It's even ridiculous. Okay, I can almost leave the one for Turkana, except for the fact that it's the driest county. It is the last county. It's the last frontier. So they know that you're not going anywhere. Machakos, for the love of God, I could be going to Kitui.
Yes.
But they were
You'll be going
charging
to
me.
How much do you pay for that?
I think for Machakos it's 6,000 shillings.
Yes, to
6,000.
cross.
Yes. So remember, drillers have 2 to 3 trucks. You pay for all of them.
For each. So
For
it comes to
each of the
24,000.
truck. Yes.
So 6,000 times 3.
Oh, times 3, okay.
Yes.
So it's 18,000.
Yes. Now,
Oh, Lord. Okay.
and remember, you're still going to pay for drilling
Yeah.
another 20,000.
Wait, you're
You
the
just-
driller.
Yes.
You pay 20,000 for what again?
For drilling.
for drilling.
You have to pay the county.
So
But
everything
what is
else.
this 200,000?
This is what I'm telling you. We are lost, and that's why we've come out, guns blazing. Because what is this that you're charging me? The resource is not yours.
Sorry,
It's
Cornelius.
not a business permit. I don't operate in your county.
I think we need to be very clear.
Yeah.
Because we're saying here that County Ndu,
Yeah.
in order for Cornelius
Yeah.
to come and drill a borehole, I don't care whether you'll find water. I don't care whether you will find superfluous amounts of water. The fact that you've brought your rig in and you're going to start drilling, you will pay me as County Ndu 200,000 shillings.
Yes.
This is different from the 20,000 shillings that whomever is going to charge you to actually start to do the thing.
Yes.
It's different from the 18,000 shillings that will charge you to come from wherever you're coming from to cross over into my county.
Yes.
And this is different from the 115,000 that we've charged
Very
you before
different.
to get a letter and all of this allotment, etc., etc.
In fact, Nairobi.
We are now at 336,000 shillings and we've not found water yet.
You haven't seen. No, the rig. Okay, yeah, but maybe after you pay the 200, now the rig arrives. You have not started paying me, the driller.
Okay.
To start
start drilling.
Way.
So you are 300,000. I mean, what did you get that figure?
336,000.
You're 336,000 down.
So now you've crossed the county.
Yes,
You get to my piece of land.
I've gotten to your piece of land.
Can you now start drilling?
Now, if we're talking about Taita Taveta, maybe most drillers may do about 7,000-8,000 shillings or 10,000 shillings per meter, depending on the difficulty of the site.
Let's just talk about Machakos here.
Yeah, so
you've
Machakos
gone
will
to the
charge
site.
about 7,000 shillings per meter from there.
7,000 per meter. What's the average depth you go to?
So call it 150.
150
meters. Oh, wait until I tell you Nairobi is approaching 400. Yeah.
400 what?
Meters.
Meters?
Yes.
To get water?
Yes.
What are you talking about?
I'm telling you. I told you I'm a practitioner.
How deep is the water table?
It is.
In Nairobi?
It is.
Wait. So 7,000 per meter. Let's back it up a bit. 7,000 per meter in Machakos.
Yeah.
So you have to go 150 meters.
Yes.
So that's how much?
1,050,000.
That's times 150.
Yes.
Which gives 1,050,000.
Yes.
So this is now
plus all the other costs.
Plus 336,000.
Okay. That's for around 200,000 more. You add to that figure.
So once you dig 150 meters, you need kuchimba tu. You have not set up anything.
No,
we have not put a pump. We have not powered it.
And you've not, because it's not just the earth. There's something that you put.
Yes, and then we have not stored
the casing.
We have not done
the casing.
Yes, no, that's inclusive of casing. But you haven't.
The plumbing.
That first of all. Wait, we go back to WRA at that point. We pay another 25,000
for what?
For something called a permit, abstraction permit.
Is that not involved in this other thing?
No, that 20 was authorization to drill. Now you have to pay to use the resource.
Another 20,000.
25. And then you have to pay 2 shillings and 50 cents for every 1,000 liter of water.
Okay, you need to stop.
So basically, how much does it cost a regular Kenyan to drill borehole?
So from start to end, you're staring at on the minimum, call it 2 million shillings. That is if the borehole is short, easy to drill,
and the county has favorable rates.
And the county is favorable. Now we have more problems.
I know we don't see. Cornelius, unfortunately, time doesn't allow us to even go into these problems because we are at the point whereby that all of this is being charged and somebody then is trying to operate within business, number one, and that we're saying that it is not the person's fault that there's no water and they're trying to find some water, whether it's a business or whether it's a community, household, whatever the case may be. But that it just does seem as though you're being punished for being in an already difficult situation and trying to make the most of it very quickly because our time has come to an end. Do you think that this can all, this is clear that it is difficult to do, it's frustrating. Is there a way through if we start to relax a little bit to decrease the tension and a lot of these regulations and laws and permits in order for business to be done? Is it
Yes,
possible?
it is. It is. And this is what we've been discussing with the WRA. Like I said, as the organizers, we were there just last week to have this discussion and say, how do we ease? And by the way, this CEO that I was talking to, very fine gentleman.
Yeah.
Very fine gentleman. We've had, I've even personally had, meetings of my own when I'm running into problems. Now, the issue is, first of all, we need, in my own personal opinion, these counties need to follow the law. First of all, they have no business charging for water. And second, and most important, they ought to follow the law, the fourth schedule. It does not give them power to charge for this resource. Now, second, if you are in Turkana, why would you punish somebody who's actually trying to do your job?
To do your job for you.
If you were doing it in the first place, I wouldn't exist.
There you go. Cornelius Chepsoy has joined us this morning, opening our eyes to the realities that most people are going through every single day in terms of trying to get business done and in terms of also just trying to survive. We have to open the lid on a lot of these things and we have to have these conversations. We want to thank you for joining us this morning. It's another one of those ones where we leave ourselves hanging because the question is what really ought to happen next. But it's good that we have the conversations. It's important for us to do. We want to thank you for being in the hot seat this morning.
Thank you.
The conversations definitely, folks, must continue. It's 2 minutes past 8.
Thank you very much.
On the green course, for the green cause. Tee off for action against climate change and make your day count. The Standard County Golf Classic Eldoret edition is here. Brought to you by the Standard Group in association with Eka Hotel Eldoret. On the green course, for the green cause. Saturday, 14th June 2025 at the Eldoret Club.